Good day to you, fellow music fans. It's James here, your resident music mole, music genius, and self-proclaimed Christian music historian. Today, we're going to talk about three artists who had significant impacts on the Christian music industry, and who also celebrated significant anniversaries of their deaths this past year. First of these was Keith Green, a man who had a tremendous influence on Christian music between 1977 and 1982. He was very, very popular among young people of the Jesus movement. He had become a Christian himself and then influenced many other young artists at the time. But then he died very, very untimely in 1982 when he overloaded his small tourist plane on the property of Last Days Ministry down in Texas. He and his wife ran this ministry for just helping young people get back on their feet from recovering from drug addictions, things like that. They were going on a sightseeing tour. He overloaded the plane and it crashed, and he and two of his children died in the crash. It was extremely tragic. That happened on July 28th, 1982. This past summer, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of his untimely passing. Then later on in the summer, Mark Hurd, an incredible artist who could play many different instruments, kind of an underground favorite among a lot of artists in the late 80s and early 90s. He worked along the likes of artists such as T-Bone Burnett, who have gone on to produce many, many great film soundtracks, including the Crazy Heart soundtrack more recently. His impact was on artists that we're going to be talking about in a moment here, such as Rich Mullins also had an influence on him. But he was tremendously influential in the underground market. So artists that I'm a fan of, but maybe not everyone, such as Lifesavers Underground and the 77s, Steve Taylor, and then Canadian artists some people are familiar with, Bruce Cockburn, who is both known in the mainstream and the Christian industry, were also extremely influenced by Mark Hurd. But his death was August 16th, 1992, after a heart attack that just left him in a coma. It was extremely tragic. He was only 40 years old. He could play any instrument, from mandolin to piano to accordion to guitar, many, many instruments. And he used to always say, I really never studied how to play these very much. I just kind of punch in and go about it my own way. Tremendously talented songwriter. One songwriter of recent that I would say to somewhat compare him to would be a guy by the name of Josh Garrels, who is a favorite among all of us music moles, particularly his most recent album, Love and War and the Sea in Between, lyrically reflects a lot of Mark Hurd's style of songwriting about living in a fallen world as a believer and what you see because of it. My third artist, as I mentioned previously, is Rich Mullins. He died in a car accident on September 19th, 1997. So we just last month celebrated the 15th anniversary of his passing. He was an incredible songwriter when it came to just the allegories and metaphors and the way he would describe God's grace within creation and how he found God amongst creation is just extremely unique to him. Many people, not just me, consider the current artist Andrew Peterson to kind of be the man that picked up the mantle of the style of songwriting of Rich Mullins when he died in 97. Andrew was just kind of beginning his career. His first album came out in the year 2000, but he had kind of done some independent stuff before that. And it's amazing because actually Andrew himself wrote a song inspired by what he felt the day Rich Mullins died. It was a song called 3 Days Before Autumn that's kind of hard to find now. It's actually on one of his rarity compilations called Appendix A that came out in 2006, but it's worth checking out. So to sum up, basically, if you're interested in artists such as Keith Green, Mark Hurd, or Rich Mullins, a lot of their work is available on Amazon, and it's also available on iTunes at a less expensive rate. But some of their stuff you may be able to find for under $5 on Amazon, and it's worth checking out, because with Keith you're going to get a passionate young man who loved the Lord and had a zeal for the Lord, and also was an incredible piano player. With Mark Hurd, you're going to get a man that could play any different, multiple types of instruments, including on the last album that I have here, Satellite Sky. He played an electric mandolin. You're going to get incredible songwriting. You're going to get lyrics that can be at times dark and depressing, but, you know, that's part of our lives as believers. And realizing that it's because of sin. And then if you're, you know, Rich Mullins, I mean, this album right here, Liturgy of Legacy and a Ragamuffin Band, is excellent. It's got some great dulcimer and various other instruments that Rich also learned to play. He was quite good as a musician as well. And also, an album I highly recommend would be the Jesus Record, which is just the album he actually recorded, sat down in a church in Arizona, and empty church. He just recorded these songs on just him with his guitar or a piano, and he recorded 9 of them. He recorded it to a cassette on a battery-operated cassette recorder, and he mailed it to his record producer at the time just to let him know what he was working on. And then 9 days later is when he died in the car accident. So they managed to recover the cassette and clean it up as much as they could, and those songs are just amazing because you just hear his heart that comes out in the music, even though they're just very simple recordings. And then several friends of his, such as Rick Elias and Michael W. Smith and Amy Grant, and, you know, some big names within the Christian music industry, actually got together and they took turns at singing the lead vocals on the same songs, and they actually recorded them with a full band. And that is the second disc of the album, The Jesus Record. So, there you go. A little bit of history for you as we celebrated 3 significant anniversaries of the unfortunate passing of 3 influential Christian musicians. Peace out.